The following is a video about the NHL, unfortunately. Dragger face. So, NHL, hear you're coming back soon. That's good news. I've also heard that about 36 times since the lockout started, so I won't get my hopes up. For those of you who have been watching me for a long time, you know, I talk about the Leafs, I talk about other NHL teams, and I try to talk about them with a little bit of fire. Try to have a lot of energy, enthusiasm, come up with some jokes. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, sometimes I go in full rant mode. And part of the reason it's been so long since I've made an actual video on the NHL, I don't got it. I don't got it anymore. Which, don't unsubscribe. I'll get it back. I just don't have it right now. I got into video blogging and then, you know, video production and highlight packs and writing and stuff like that because I love hockey. I love watching hockey. I love talking about hockey. I love the goals. I love the saves. I love the stories, the personalities, the hype. All this CBA make whole contingent on this provision with HR. I don't care. I took one law course in high school because I had to. I took one law course in university because it seemed like a good idea. And that's the extent of it for me. And you know, I work in hockey now, but in order to do that, I think you have to be a fan. And if I don't care, I'm wondering how much everyone else cares. And honestly, right now, based on things I've heard from reporters and whatever, there's some hiccups and whatever in the negotiations, but it sounds like sometime in the next, I don't know, 2 weeks, there will be a deal. But what the NHL and NHLPA have done to the fans is similar to like a torture tactic for prisoners of war. And that is, you got them, okay? They're in a prison, you put a bag over their head so they can't see, and you tell them, you're going home today. And so you stand them up with the bag over their head, you walk them out of the prison, you walk them into a car, you drive around and arrive at your destination. When they get inside, you take the bag off their head, and you're right where you started, back in that prison. Oh, you thought the lockout was over? No, the lockout's not over, man. And I had an idea for like half a rant for this video, like, oh, you know, I understand that the players are making too much and like it's not sustainable for the NHL, but the owners got themselves into the stupid mess in the first place. And I was gonna link it into how society kind of blames young people for being like lazy, entitled, and spoiled, and we just don't know how to do anything. Meanwhile, if young people are so stupid, what's the deal with the economy and the bailouts and everything failing? That wasn't done by a bunch of 20-somethings. But, no, I just don't want to get into it. Speaking of interest, I read a thing, I think it was Forbes magazine, that said only 3 NHL teams are like making legitimate money, and that's the Rangers, of course, New York Rangers, Montreal Canadiens, of course, Montreal Canadiens, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, the Leafs. But if I can touch on something I've touched on before, it is 2013. The last time the Leafs made the playoffs was 2004. Now let's pretend the season is canceled and they can't make the playoffs, or they just don't make the playoffs once the season starts up. That's 9 years without making the playoffs. And when you're born and you're a baby or an infant, memories don't click in right away. Like, what's your earliest memory? How old are you? 3, 4 years old? 5? And they didn't really become vivid memories for like a few years after that. So you gotta be somewhere in your teens, like mid-teens, to remember when the Leafs were good. And here's an observation. I worked at the Toronto Zoo for almost a decade as one of the monkeys. Guys and girls my age walking around, they got Leaf stuff pretty much. Kids? There's no Leaf fans. They got Crosby hats, Kane, Taves, Iginla is still popular. Shea Weber they really like, Ovechkin, exciting players, Getzlaf, Perry. And I'm not gonna suggest that the Leafs are just gonna stop making money, but if this market loses interest, then really what does the NHL have? At this point, I don't even know if there's a thesis to this video other than I hate everything that the NHL and NHLPA have done over the last few months. It's just, not only is it a disagreement, you know, a lockout, they could be playing while negotiating. Some people think they can't. No. Figure it out. Gary Bettman's this brilliant negotiator, right? Everyone says, you know what, love him or hate him, Gary Bettman's great at his job. He's had 3 lockouts in less than 2 decades. And please help me out if I'm wrong, but I can only come up with 2 reasons for why that may have happened. 1, the CBA in 1994 was so bad that you had to have a lockout in 2004 to fix it, and then the CBA in 2004 was so bad that you had to have a new CBA in 2012 or 2013 now, to fix that one. So Bettman and the NHL have negotiated 2 really bad deals and they're on their way to a third. Or they just straight up think they can get away with it. Might be a little column A, might be a little column B. Who knows? One last thing. I hope you're enjoying the video because I clearly don't have a point. I do KHL highlights. I do a lot of them. I've done several hundred highlight packs this season with my friend Andreas Sachenka. He's actually from Russia. Ooh, fancy. Please check them out. I'm going to put links in the underbar. You can see a huge playlist of... There's a lot of NHL stars over there you can watch. And for months now, since I started doing the packs, people rant at me on Twitter, oh, it's not the same, it's so... Listen, I'm not going to tell you the KHL is the same as the NHL. I'm not. A lot of players in that league will tell you straight up the NHL is better. I'm just offering an alternative, and I hope you enjoy it. If you don't have to watch. I hope you do. And when the NHL comes back, I will go back to making videos after every Leaf game. I'm going to go back to CBC and start making highlight packs there. I have a few shifts coming up. I don't know what we're going to cover, but it should be fun. And we haven't talked about next year yet, but this season, for the remainder of the season, whether the NHL comes back tomorrow or not at all, I'm doing KHL highlights for the rest of the season. And I hope you come out to some Mississauga Steelheads games or some other junior teams around Canada or high school teams in the States and college teams, and there's so much hockey. If you feel like this video was a waste of your time, I'm sorry, but like I said a few seconds in, I got nothing. It really was a little bit like therapy though. I feel a little better. So if you guys want to partake in the therapy, make it group therapy, vent a little bit, there's the comment box right down there. Thanks for watching, and unlike the NHL, thanks for clicking play.